Welcome back to Sittin with Sam. We're continuing to talk about fatherhood and parenting, and today we're talking about obedience. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1, I think we've read this scripture before. Yes. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. God keeps it pretty simple for kids here, doesn't he, Dad? Obey your parents, for this is right.
Yes, it's right. It's a good thing. He wants them to understand that obeying us is not just because we're bossy and want to push them around, but it's because he wants them to. And think about it. We learned about obeying God as we grew older, and we studied and we obey him. But our kids are too young to do that yet. They're still learning about obeying God, so they have to obey us until they get old enough then later to obey God.
That's right. I think it helps kids, especially boys, to know who's in charge. What are the rules? Yeah. What are the boundaries? What's okay? What's not okay? And Dad lovingly but firmly let me know when I was a kid who was in charge. It wasn't me. It was him. Mm-hmm. And I learned to obey, and that was right. The next scripture we have here, we have an article about this. My dad's written on obedience. This scripture comes from Colossians 3, verse 20. Again, about obedience, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Yeah. So first it says it's right. Now it says it pleases the Lord. You want to talk about that?
Well, it makes God happy with us. When we obey him, it makes him happy with us as disciples, but it also makes him happy with kids when they obey us as parents. So it draws us closer to God. It enables him to come close to us and us to come close to him, and he's able to bless our life and show us his love and guide us and direct us and teach us how to live. And so it's a good and joyful thing to obey.
Yeah, it pleases the Lord.
Pleases God.
Now, I think that's important because there's some things that kids may not understand, especially when they're little. Why? And we try to explain to them, but they may not always understand what we're telling them. So how do you deal with that when kids are a little too small to understand everything that you're trying to tell them?
Some things are direct commands of God, like lying or
hitting
or cursing or things like that, but getting drunk or whatever. But other things are things that you're asking them to do that are maybe wise. It'll keep them from getting injured or getting hurt or hurting somebody else by making a mistake. Or it's something that needs to be done. So we need to explain it to them.
Now, this starts young, right? I mean, I think about little kids showing defiance, the terrible twos, the temper tantrums, but then teenagers have tantrums in their own way. Mm-hmm. So how do we start when they're little, dealing with defiance and training that out of our children?
Well, we have to teach them firmly about it, strongly. Look, don't defy us. Do what needs to be done, and here's why, and really help them to see it.
Yeah. And I think that leads us to our last scripture, actually, Ephesians 6, verse 2. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you, and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. So as kids mature, we're helping them understand that this obedient spirit that we're teaching them is going to help their life go better.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
Yes, it means that your life goes better. I certainly learned that as I was studying to become a disciple, and after becoming a disciple, that the more obedient I am to God, the more I follow Christ, the more joyful and happy and wonderful my life is. And so teaching not only that, but teaching your kids, if you learn from your mommy and daddy, your life's going to be better. You're going to be happier. Think about it, David. You might want to share about that thing where you said you used to go and take things from other people and things like that, and we taught you not to do it. But I said, because, hey, you wouldn't want them to do that to you, right?
Right. Well,
so don't do that to them either.
When I was little, I had a tendency to just run through the playroom or through the playground or the yard, and I would just knock other kids over, on my way to do what I wanted to do. To me, that was acceptable, pleasing behavior, but I had to be taught.
Right. the more, and think about it, the more you learn how to do things that are right and good, the more closer you get to other people, the more you love them, the more they love you, and the better friendships you have, the more fulfilling life you have. So let's explain it that way and claim it as disciples who follow, obey God, but also teaching that to our children.
I remember, sometimes you get into interesting conversations with small children, and it must have been one of those times Lisa was explaining, to the kids why some people end up in jail. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but she would explain to the kids, well, a lot of them probably never learned to obey their parents. Because it starts there. And then we wanted our kids to understand your life is going to go better if you learn to obey. And now that they're older, even recently they're doing virtual school.
Right.
We had to have a big talk about being obedient and doing your schoolwork with a good attitude and helping mommy clean up the house with a good attitude. And now I have a 13-year-old in the house, and we looked at a Bible story about not being like this man Nabal, but trying to be like Abigail. And when you learn to have an obedient attitude and a good attitude, you become the man or the woman that you want to become.
As parents seeking our children to obey us, let's understand this, that the more they do that, the better their life's going to be, not just when they're young and little and make us happier, but it'll be better for the rest of their life when they grow older. Yeah. It'll teach them to be humble, caring, loving people who serve God and are great, loving people to other people as well.
Yeah. Let's be strong on this.
Yes.
The Bible commands it for children to obey. We're not saying to be harsh. I remember something my dad taught me when my kids were younger. He said, we want to shape their will, but not break their spirit.
Right.
So parents, let's be strong. Let's shape their will, but let's not break their spirit as we teach them to obey. Thanks for joining us,
yes.
and we'll see you next time.